up guys, welcome back to the channel. So as you saw, I already spent half of my morning working on this thing, mostly just tightening bolts, torquing everything to the right spec, the way that they should be, and just a few tips with that. So obviously, like you saw, first I gave it some ugga-duggas, but not all of the ugga-duggas. I still made sure that I could torque the bolts to their proper spec. After I finished torquing them, I marked them. So I don't know how well you can see, but I have some marks on every bolt that I torqued, and that's basically gonna do a couple things for me. That's gonna let me know what bolts I have already torqued, so that I don't go back and torque a bolt twice. And the way that I marked it, it will basically show me if they have come loose or anything like that, so I can go ahead and torque everything back up again. I will be coming back and torquing everything again, probably within maybe like 200 miles, 300 miles, check everything again, and then probably once I do the next oil change. But yeah, that was all the bolts. I don't want to bore you too much with that because it's just torquing bolts. The fun stuff that I have been working on is the power steering system, which is basically the last big thing that we have to finish before we can drive this thing out of here. And let me show you what I got so far. So if you have been following kind of this adventure for the last few months, you know that the last thing that I was waiting on to finish the power steering system is this little reservoir. So we got it. We actually got it like maybe a month ago. It's just been sitting there because we had been pretty busy with the suspension. So a few things with this. Most people mount this kind of like somewhere around here, but obviously I have all this real estate already taken up by the not the cold air intake, the intercooler piping, and then, well, my actual intake. So for me, it's not gonna work mounting it right here. So then I started kind of looking around, the rest of the engine bay, like maybe like right here, or somewhere else over here. I thought of maybe mounting it to like kind of like the hinge or the hood, but I don't want to mess with that too much. Plus, if I did mount it there, it was gonna end up being a little too high, and it was gonna get hit by the actual hinge when you actually closed the hood. So then I kept looking, and I actually found these two little holes on the side, on the fender of the truck, that will work perfectly for what we're doing. So what I did is I made this little bracket deal that will bolt to that right there, and then these will bolt to the actual bracket of the power steering reservoir. And the way that that's gonna work is basically kind of like this. So that's where it's gonna sit, and it's gonna look super nice. It's gonna look pretty factory. And then, so that's gonna be right there. And I was already messing with the power steering line. So this is gonna be basically the feed. Let me move the actual reservoir. So this line right here is gonna be the actual feed from the reservoir to the pump, which is gonna sit right there. I think that's gonna work perfectly. And now all that I'm working on is the like the rest of the lines. So I'm gonna hook up all the lines that go from the gearbox to the actual pump to the cooler, which that little reservoir, I bought it on eBay. It's an OEM reservoir, and it's pretty cool because it actually came with this little cooler, an OEM cooler for it. So I'm gonna hook all that up to our pump, make sure that everything works properly, that I have everything routed properly, because to be honest with you, I have no idea how the actual routing of all the lines go, so I'm gonna have to figure that out as I go. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that, get that done, so that we can be this much closer to actually driving this thing out of here. Man, come on, let's go. Also, one more thing that I forgot to mention when torquing your bolts is that I actually kind of messed up when I installed my shock, at least on the passenger side. I think on the driver's side I'll be fine. I mean, on the driver's side I messed up, on the passenger side I'll be fine. Let me see how well you can see. But right behind the shock is the top bolt to the radius arm, and I can't torque that with this shock being in the way. So I'm gonna have to do double work, take that shock off, torque the radius arm, and put the shock back on. I mean, it's no big deal, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, but it's really annoying. So I figured that I would tell you guys Just to make sure that you guys don't do the same mistake that I do and torque and install that shock before you torque your radius arms. You might want to install it and mock it up. That's fine. But if you do that, you are gonna have to take the shock back out so you can torque that bolt. And they take a lot of torque. I believe they take 222 foot-pounds, pound-feet, whatever. So it's a lot of torque that you gotta put in those things. So you do want to make sure that you get them properly torqued. But anyways, that's it for the whole torquing stuff. And basically this is the way that it looks mounted, and like I said, it looks super factory, super clean. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I'm kind of just mocking everything up, so I'm gonna end up taking this off again so I can paint this bracket, so it looks nice and black. But it turned out perfect. It clears the hood perfectly. Like when you close it, it won't touch anything, and it is super solid. So I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. Okay guys, so I've been fighting this for what seems like way too long, and I haven't gotten very far, to be honest with you. But let me show you. Like I completely don't know if this is right or wrong or whatnot, but this is kind of what made sense to me, or at least what I was able to make work. So let me show you. I also don't know how much you're gonna be able to see, but somewhere down there where you see those two lines crossed, that's our gearbox. So we have one line that goes down to the cooler, and then the other one that goes from the pump, loops all the way around here and goes to the gear. Now, from the reservoir, we've got this big line that feeds the pump. That's actually the only line that I think looks good in this whole thing, to be honest with you, because everything else looks sketchy as hell. And this is one of those times where I need your help to kind of help me with the routing and check my work. So definitely don't do, if you're doing this, don't do it yet, because it's not, I'm pretty sure it's not right. But anyways, so from those two lines, that line goes down to the cooler, which this line ended up being super long. But anyways, there's our cooler, obviously not mounted yet. And then the problem with this is I want to mount the cooler basically like somewhere right there, right in front of the intercooler. The problem with that though is that I don't have a line that's long enough to go from the cooler back to the reservoir. So I have all the other lines. None of them are the right size. They're too long, they're too short, they seem to not fit right. But I made it sort of work in a way, like I said, that makes sense to me. But like I said, what I want out of you guys, the favor that I want is, I want to see how you guys have routed power steering setups before like this, that have a reservoir but don't have Hydro Boost. Like I've said before in the past, we are going to be eventually going to Hydro Boost. I've just had a hard time kind of finding all the parts, or at least the parts that I want to use for the setup. But for now I want to make this work. So what I'm going to do is order a longer line of power steering line for the cooler to the reservoir, and hopefully get that to work. Because like right now, like I said, we have, so this is basically the loop. So we go from the reservoir to the pump, from the pump to the gear, from the gearbox to the cooler, from the cooler back to the reservoir. So that's kind of my whole loop that I have going on with the power steering. And like I said, to me it makes sense, but I also don't know power steering setups, so I don't know if it's okay having it go from the gearbox to the cooler and back to the reservoir, or if it should be going a different way. Like I don't know, out of those two holes on the gearbox, I don't know which one's the feed and which one's the like the outlet. So if you guys could help me out with that, I would really appreciate that. But like I said, for now I'm gonna go ahead and order that longer line, and hopefully we can make this work, because like I gotta be honest, I really like the way that it looks with the reservoir right there. Like I think it looks super clean. I actually like that way better than the way that it looks over here, because that's kind of like tucked out of the way. It fills that empty spot right there, and it just makes it look really nice. And I think we can get all the plumbing to work good. Now, talking about plumbing again, like I said, I've got one line that goes from the pump, loops all the way around and goes to the gearbox. So that's super long. So that's something that eventually I'm gonna have to change, and I don't know if I can get this to work. I might keep it there until I do Hydro Boost, because once I do Hydro Boost, that's gonna be like the final shape that this is gonna take, and that's where I want all my plumbing to look really, really good. So basically right now what I want to do is make everything work and make it work good. Not necessarily make it look the cleanest, but like I said, make it look good. That's my goal. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a lot done today. Like I said, I think the most productive thing that I did was actually mount the reservoir. Again, I'm super proud of the way that that thing turned out. Everything else, no, I don't like the way it looks. But like I said, if I can get it to work, that's good enough for me for right now. Until, like I said, until I can get all the hoses, until I can get the Hydro Boost set up and working good, then we'll make all that clean. For now, I just want to be able to drive this thing. But yeah, I think that's enough rumbling. Again, like I said, we already got all the suspension torqued. That's the only thing holding us up. Unfortunately, like I've said, I'm only here at the house for the weekends. Here in a couple hours, I'm gonna head back to Phoenix to go back to work over there. But that will give us enough time to find that hose. Probably gonna order like 5-6 feet of that hose, just so that I have enough to run it all the way to the cooler and be able to route it properly. Other than that, that's the only thing holding us up right now. So I'm gonna get that ordered. I'll get it installed hopefully next weekend, and we'll basically be done. You know, like I said before, I have a few other things that we gotta do, but once that's done, we can actually take this thing for a test drive and see how it handles out on the road. And I'm super excited about that. Hopefully you guys are excited about it as much as I am. If you are, make sure to follow me. If you're not following the channel, hit that follow button. Also hit the like, leave any comments that you might have. Again, if you think if I messed up with this, let me know. Leave me a comment, let me know how you would have routed this, because I actually do need some help with that. And you guys are awesome. You know, you're always helping me, giving me tips and advice, and I always appreciate it. So again, leave me those comments, leave me those likes, watch the rest of the videos, and we'll see you for the next one.